Big thank you to everybody for coming out on a rainy night and for taking your eyes away from your phones and the fireworks that are going back and forth right now. But we're here for a related purpose. And it's no accident. I don't think it's an accident. I think it's very, very fitting that we're here talking about what we're here to talk about on a day which I received a death threat for some of the things that I've said at Mass Staten Island, where I called for the state of Israel to be abolished, which is not a very radical call, actually. In fact, the Allied powers abolished the state of Prussia after the World Wars, because Prussia was both the material and the ideological engine of Nazi Germany and the German war machine. So it is possible, and it is precedented in history, to abolish states. It has been done before. And especially a regime and a state that is so built on apartheid and racism and supremacy, such as Israel, absolutely should be abolished. So that happened today. And Sheikh Shinawi was also in a hit piece from none other than the New York Post. He was in it indirectly because they were targeting somebody else, but they made sure to put in lots of pictures of the accused with Sheikh Shinawi right next to the individual they were trying to smear. This is to say that power is what is going to save you after the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah in Surah Al-Anfal, He says, وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ. Prepare for them, your enemies, whatever you can of power. And there are many, many different types of power. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that particular ayah gives verses that are examples rather, that are applicable to that time and place. And in our time and place, we have a different set of tools, especially as a minority in Dar al-Ahd, right? And in a place in which we have a social compact with the government and the people of this land, that we are able to live freely and do da'wah and practice Islam and call people to Islam, that we have different tools of power. And even though it's true, well, let's put it this way. When it comes to electoral power, you usually get two extremes in the Muslim community. You get community number one, who says that electoral power is completely useless, that it's all a conspiracy, it's all, it's kufr, it's shirk, it's everything that you could possibly be afraid of. If you vote, then you are jeopardizing your faith and perhaps your afterlife, you're committing a major sin, and that it's not going to do anything anyway. Things are already decided, they're already rigged, etc. That's one extreme. The other extreme, unfortunately, we have this as well, that electoral power will solve everything. That all you have to do is show up to the polls every 4 years or every 2 years or whatever and vote, and this is going to be enough for you. Neither of those extremes are accurate or true. Electoral power is simply one tool among many tools of political power. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to build power so that we are protected from our enemies, and I think that all of us can admit that we have enemies, then we have to utilize the legitimate tools of power that we have available to us. So it would be a dereliction of duty, and it would be negligence if we completely ignore this tool and we do not take advantage of it when it can benefit us. Now, everybody, they think about electoral power quite a lot every 4 years. So in 2024, you have the presidential election. The next presidential election is going to become in 2028. We get to complain about the results for 4 years. But the power that is exercised in 2028 is built now. It's built in 2025 and 2026 and 2027, leading up to 2028. True political power does not happen quickly. It does not happen by turning over your agency to some organization or some political party that's going to come in from outside and promise you that they're going to take care of everything and they're going to bring you salvation. Political power is built one day at a time, 1 week at a time, in your neighborhood, in your mosque and in your mosque community and around. And that's what our organization, this particular organization, is built for, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But since we're in an off year, 2025 is not a year where federal level politicians are being decided or elected. No federal representatives or federal senators or presidents are being elected. I want to give you a very, very concrete thought experiment and example. And this, I think, should prove the necessity of doing something in this area. And this actually example is taken exactly, it's based on a true story. It is in fact ripped, completely copied from a true story that happened in Texas. Now I've got here, up on, everybody can see the slideshow, right? You got no problems? Okay. This is Google Maps. Here's ISA, which is a brilliant acronym, by the way. ISA, Masjid Isa bin Maryam, ISA, Islamic Study. You got it? MashaAllah. Formerly IECPA, okay? We've got ICO Polymers, JR Peters, SR Packaging, Fulling Plastics, Concrete Floor Solutions, Niagara, Allen Distribution, and all of our neighbors that are right here. Now, I want you to imagine a scenario. Let's imagine that in 2025, let's say we're in June, let's say December 2025, our neighbors over here, Concrete Floor Solutions, goes bankrupt, and they're selling their building. And then let's say that local real estate developers get wind of it, and they see dollar signs. And they have a different idea for what should go in place of Concrete Floor Solutions. They think that it's time to bring a casino into town. They think that it would be a huge revenue generator for the city, that they'll be able to tax the wazoo out of it, they'll be able to make a lot of money on it. It will probably increase development in the area, provide a lot of jobs. You can hear the politicians already spinning the angles that they are going to spin in order to justify this. What would we do? How would we stop this? What are the steps that the people in this room would need to take in order to prevent this thing from happening? Hands, serious interaction. Anybody have any idea? How would you start? An angry khutbah from the Imam. You're in enough trouble, Sheikh. Yes, Zil. City Hall. What at City Hall? Go there by yourself? A group of people. Okay, who's the group of people you're going to go with? Depends. How many people do you think would be enough or necessary to show up with? 5 to 10. Okay. Fazil, you said? Oh, sorry, Hisham. Town halls. So this is a little bit more strategic, not just showing up at the door of City Hall. Maybe they're closed. Maybe the ice cream machine is broken, right? We're actually going to pick the public forum, town hall. It's the chance for comment. We're going to show up. Yes, sister. Petitions, protests, rallies. Okay, good. Anything else? How many people do you think would have to get to either a rally or on a petition for anybody to care? A couple hundred? Yeah. Okay, so more or less 100, maybe a couple hundred. Very good. All of this comes back to the same principle. All of these tactics are political tactics. They're tactics of political power, just like a vote is a tactic of political power. And in any particular problem that you might have, there are going to need to be a variety of tactics that are used. But all of them rely on one thing. Anybody want to say what it is? Yes? Actually, no. But the First Amendment's a big help. You're right in the sense that, you know, like freedom of assembly, yes, freedom of speech. But there's something before that. Organization, or we could say collective action. Anything that you want to do, anything that you want to have as an impact politically, it depends on collective action and organization. You cannot do anything in this country or influence any of the decisions without organization and collective action. Even if we just wanted people to drink karak chai at the same time. Let's say we wanted 500 people to drink karak chai. We want to go viral on TikTok, okay? We're going to have all these people drinking at the same time. That is an act of collective organizing and collective action. How would you get the 500 people together? Who are the 500 people? How would you reach out to them? What's the message you're going to give them? Why would they care? Why would they listen to you to even show up in the first place? What if there's opposition that's trying to tell them that, hey, that's not cool anymore, like that's lame, that's last week's trend. You know, you should not even think about drinking karak chai on TikTok. You should do something else. This is politics. Anything that you want to do is going to require collective action. And unfortunately, it's not just a problem of the Muslim community, but it is particularly acute in the Muslim community, this problem. We wait until it's too late. We wait until we are affected by a decision, but we haven't done this organization, and then we wonder why we have no capacity. We wonder why we have no influence. It's almost like, I give this example because, believe it or not, I mean, I'm kind of a rebel, but I am kind of a rule follower in some ways. Do you know when you're driving and you've got to merge, like one of the lanes is closing, and it's like, left lane closed in 1,000 feet. You keep on going. Left lane closed in 500 feet. There's always that one guy. We're going to pick on the guys. We'll say it's not a girl. It's a guy. Flying down that lane until the very end when he sees the cones and he sees the sign with the arrow pointing, and then he has no choice but to merge, and then there's a whole line of people and he can't merge. He has to slam on his brakes, and he's cursing and he's doing gestures, gesticulating towards the other drivers. But really, it's his fault. He did not plan for that moment. He had no capacity to act in that moment because of the choices that he made previously. In 2028, John Fetterman is going to be up for re-election. John Fetterman is one of the most egregious politicians at the level of Senate, so he has a lot more influence. There's only 2 senators per state. He has a lot more influence than any of the representatives. He has been someone who has waved Israeli flags from the tops of buildings. He's been so unhinged in his support of the occupation of Palestine that even his party is looking at him like, maybe we need to start thinking about another option so we don't lose this election in 2028. But you will never be able to replace him with who you want unless you organize now in 2025. That's the general message here. Now, we have started an organization in this area called the Moral Vote. And the Moral Vote is a 501c4. That is a type of organization. It's not like a 501c3. It's adjacent to a 501c3. 501c3s, such as the Masjid, do educational programs. 501c4s advocate, and they can tell you who to vote for. Our motto is, or one of our mottos, change it with your hands. This is the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, if any one of you sees an evil, then you change it with your hand. And if you find that you can't, then you move down the decision tree to other things. What is our mission? Our mission is to educate, empower, and mobilize Muslim voters in the Lehigh Valley. We don't pretend that voting is going to solve everything, but we do recognize that the need to organize, to have the ability to act collectively. Sometimes that collective action is going to be a vote. Sometimes that collective action might be a petition or a protest. Sometimes that collective action might be showing up at a town hall or a city hall. But right now, if we wanted 500 people to drink karak chai at the same time, we could not do it. So if we can't get people to drink chai at the same time, how are we going to stop a casino or to stop any other thing that might threaten us in a real way? That's the idea here. So maybe voting's not your thing. I know there's some people that are very suspicious. That's fine. I respect that, actually. But we have to go through the process of organizing the community to be ready for every type of political action that we might need to take. Now, I'm going to show you some other things that are relevant to 2025 and why you should care. Why do I even want to go into organizing now? Why can't I wait at least to 2026, 2027, right? The big election isn't coming until 2028. Here are the upcoming elections in 2025 in the entire country. Okay, these are all of the seats and positions that you could possibly decide and vote on for the entire nation. And I'm kind of ignorant with Excel, but I was able to sort this data sheet by the largest number of local and city positions. That means that Pennsylvania has the most amount of elected seats up for decision this year in the entire country, and it's not close. We also have the most state positions up for decision in November. We do not have the most county positions, but city, local, and state, Pennsylvania has the most that are up to be decided. So we have a unique opportunity. I'm going to keep going here. Now, if you knew it or not, there was just an election last month. May 20th was the primary election. Raise your hand if you voted on May 20th. Yeah, you did. Allahu Akbar. We have one person. MashaAllah. I did not, and I could not because I'm an independent. I'm not registered with any of the two parties. Okay, real quick, what's a primary? A primary is when you are deciding who the nominees will be in the fall. So that's why they're divided by party. The Democrats have a primary and the Republicans have a primary. If you're registered as a Democrat, you will see many options to decide who's going to represent the Democratic Party for the school board, for city council, for the mayor, etc., in the fall. Or if you're registered as a Republican, you are deciding who is going to be representing the Republican Party for those seats in the fall. Pennsylvania is what's called a closed primary state. That means that you have to be registered with one of the two parties in order to participate in the primary. That's why I cannot participate in the primary, because I haven't yet. I'm still an independent. But if you were registered as a Democrat, or if you were registered as a Republican, you could have participated in these primaries. One of the key takeaways from this election in this area, in the Lehigh Valley, is that there are many elections in which the primary is actually what decides who wins in the end. Because this area is typically dominated by the Democratic Party. At the local level, we're talking city council, mayor, even judges. This area is, by and large, local politics is dominated by the Democratic Party. There are many Republican seats, they don't even bother running anybody. Which means that for those seats, who is going to be elected in the fall was just decided in May. Okay? That's one thing I want everybody to consider. So we're going to break down some of the takeaways, okay, from this election that just happened. Main points: turnout, when primaries decide, I just kind of spoiled that one, and then money. Some people have the misconception that you need $100,000 or $1 million to win a race. Not in local politics. I've got numbers, I'll show you. Voter turnout. This is the area's voter turnout on May 20th. As you can tell, the vast majority of the Lehigh Valley, voter turnout was between 1% and 20%. In some areas in which we have significant populations, I'm going to get into that in a second, inshallah, it was 10%. Why is this significant? Because it's there for the taking. The fewer people participate or show up, the greater influence you're able to have. And this is a running theme that we have seen since we started this work in November. Whenever the turnout is low and the margins are slim, we have an enormous ability to impact things. And I think that you'll see by the end of this presentation that in this area, often the turnout is low and the margins are slim. Here is Allentown City Council. Okay? That big red line that I plopped right there, that's the difference between who made it. Top 4 made it, because they picked the top 4, and the bottom 3 didn't. Darrell Hendricks, by the way, was incumbent. What is the difference then? So this is the Democratic primary. It means you had to be a Democrat, register as a Democrat in order to vote in this in this particular race. Who's good at math? What's the difference between barely making it and not making it? How many votes is that? What's that? 25? Good. 25 votes. We have 25 people in the room, perhaps. We definitely have it in the building. 25 votes was enough to decide whether Christian Pungo or Daryl Hendricks was going to be on the ballot. And if you'll see the difference between even the top vote getter, Cynthia Moda, and the bottom, it's not that much. We're not talking about thousands. We're talking about hundreds. Oftentimes in these local races, we're talking about tens. Sometimes even less than that. I didn't include it on this slide deck because I'm not focusing on Albertus, but Albertus, the actual municipality of Albertus, was decided by 6 votes, the mayor of Albertus. Let's go to Lower Macungie. So what we're doing, part of our initiative at the Moral Vote, is we want to not waste energy and time. We want to look at where are the Muslims? Where is our power? If we don't have a bunch of people in this district or this municipality, it's not really worth our time necessarily to get involved. But we need to understand where everyone lives because that's how we can tell, wow, we have a ton of people living in this particular district, so we have a unique ability to affect the races that are valid for this district. Let's look at, by the way, there's 3 areas that the Muslims who come to events at this masjid are mostly located. There's one particular zip code of Allentown. There's Lower Macungie and there's Upper Macungie. Okay? So we're going to look just at, we didn't run the numbers yet for the Allentown folks, but we're just going to look at Lower Macungie and Upper Macungie. Here's Lower Macungie. This table at the bottom shows you a couple things. Here's the total population of Lower Macungie, 32,000. Of those 32,000 people, 24,000, a little bit more than 24,000, were registered to vote in the spring. The turnout, look at how low the turnout is compared to those registered to vote. That is abysmal. Or to us, it's opportunity. Now, I broke this down into electoral districts, 1 through 10. Lower Macungie has 10 electoral districts, and these numbers, next to the population, are the Muslims who have attended events in this masjid. How many live in these districts? We have 23 Muslims that come to this masjid regularly that live in District 1, 5 in District 2, 8 in District 3, 18 in District 4, etc., etc., etc. You get the point. I highlighted in green the top 5 out of 10. The most was 36 Muslims that come to this masjid regularly that live in District 6 in Lower Macungie. Altogether, all of the Muslims that we have that come to this masjid regularly that live in Lower Macungie, it's around 140, 150. Look at these numbers up top now. Here is Lower Macungie Township Commissioner. What's the difference between winning and losing this race? Is that within reach? Is 150 significant in the primary? Yes, it is. 150 is absolutely significant. Stephanie ran away with it a little bit, but it would have been decisive between the next 2, actually the next 3. Okay, let's go to some more dramatic examples. Here's now on the Republican ballot, right? Let's say you're registered as a Republican, Lower Macungie Township Commissioner. What's the difference between these votes? Remember, we have 150 people who come to this masjid regularly, who live in Lower Macungie. The difference between winning and losing your place on the ballot for the Republican Party was just 12 votes. There's a scenario in which we can tell people, hey, we just need 50 people to register for the Republican Party this year and go vote and vote for this person, vote for that person, and then we could actually decide that election. Okay, let's look at school districts. Since a lot of us have kids in the schools and we're very passionate about what's being taught in the schools with very good reason. What does it take to be the school director? And how close are those races? This is the same area. This is Lower Macungie. We have the top 3. Let's just look at the top 2. Decided by, we're talking tens, 3,627, 3,695. That is within range for how many Muslims come to this masjid regularly that live in Lower Macungie. If we had organized them and made sure that they were registered to vote. And if they happened to have been registered for the Democratic Party, they could have swung this election. All right. Now let's go to, by the way, Lower Makunji is not the municipality in which we have the most people. That would be Upper Makunji that come to this masjid. Many, many more people come to this masjid, about 400. Okay? Let's look at Parkland School Director. Here's, by the way, the data down here changed. This table changed. Here's Upper Makunji. Population, closer, 2023, almost 48,000. Of those, half-ish are registered to vote. The turnout, whew, not even 3,000. You can do the math. By district, we have 140 people in the 5th district alone. All told, we have around 400, 450 people who live in Upper Makunji who regularly come to programs at this masjid. What are the margins? 400, 500 people, is it going to swing? Absolutely, it's going to swing. It can determine who is. Who knows? Maybe Alyssa Beckwith is totally pro-LGBTQ. Maybe Matthew Wyman is not. That could be the difference between who is deciding school policy and curriculum decisions. Here, let's double click on this particular district, all right, just to show you. This is only for District 5. So this is the same race, but this is all of Upper Makunji. Let's go to we can break down to the level of the district, how many people voted. We have 140 people that come to this masjid who live in District 5, Upper Makunji. That's decisive, absolutely decisive. All right, so what did we learn? We learned that whenever there is low turnout and a slim margin, we have the opportunity to make a huge impact. We have the opportunity to make a difference. And that in this area, many times, especially at the local level, the primaries are actually what decide who's going to win in the fall. Yes, your question? Absolutely. This one, previous? Let's see. Yeah, you're right. There's a discrepancy there. I have to go back and double check the number on that. 2726. I put this together today, so I apologize. No, you're 100% right. That wouldn't seem to square here, but I'm honestly, I debated. For the record, we have not looked into school boards and directors at all yet because it's its own thing. We've mostly been focusing on mayoral and city council. I'm not sure, are you only allowed to vote for one? Is it ranked? Like, for example, like with the city council, that's ranked voting. You get to have multiple people. I'm not sure, but I will be happy to follow up on that and to double check for you. Yeah. Sure, absolutely. And this is part of the type of guidance that we will hope to provide to the community via this vehicle of the moral vote. That in an off year, where we're not voting for reps at the federal level or senators or the president, we have the luxury of switching parties. You can switch parties for a year. If you say, well, we've got a city council election coming up, it's particularly important that we, again, just the de facto situation in this area is that it's usually the Democratic Party that's running things. It might make sense in off years 25 and 27 to have people register as Democrats for the year, participate in the primaries and then the generals, and then to re-register as whatever they want or something else after. Absolutely. We're not there yet, and that's part of actually one of the later slides, talking about what we hope to offer the community in terms of guidance, but those sorts of things are what we hope that this group is going to be able to offer in terms of guidance. So yeah, we talked about low turnout and how low turnout and slim margins absolutely means we have a huge ability to affect things. Most of the time at local level, city level stuff, the primaries are actually what decide decides things around here, especially in the Democratic Party. And now the last point for the presentation, let's talk about money matters. You might think that it takes a lot of money to run a campaign and to win a campaign, but especially at the local level, that is not always true. James Fuller ran, I believe for a judge. He spent $275 on his race, and he won. His opposition spent 10 times that and lost. Stanziola, similar thing. He was an incumbent, just south of $1,000. He won. Contrast, Jenna Flizzar, upwards of $40,000 and lost. Now, that doesn't mean that this is an inverse relationship. I'm just demonstrating that money is not all it's cracked up to be, especially in small districts and small spaces where it's less important to get your name out in front of everybody in the whole state. That's what takes a lot of money, right? That, at the local level, it's much more about name recognition and familiarity than it is about money per se. Just to give you a sense of the numbers that we're dealing with, okay, this is the mayoral race for Allentown. Twerk, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, raised 50,000, almost 51,000. His opponent, Zukal, 21,000. As a masjid community, have we ever raised $20,000 before? Absolutely. So that's the point. It's just to say that if we wanted to fund a campaign, whether it was someone that was directly picked from us or somebody that we thought was particularly strategic or advantageous to the Muslim community, it's within range. It's within range of what we could fundraise and what we could contribute to. I didn't find anything that in the entire election cycle that happened in May that exceeded $60,000. I didn't see anybody's race that went beyond $60,000, which is good news because it means, again, at the local level, we have a tremendous opportunity to participate. It doesn't mean we have to participate in every single race. There are some races that are, to be frank, not very impactful. Who's the tax collector for Lehigh County is not super impactful on our lives. But things like the mayor, things like city council, especially if people indicate that they are willing to take on other policies, such as an expansionist, maximalist definition of anti-Semitism that would jeopardize our ability to do what we do in the masjid, or would entangle itself or the local industries further with the occupation of Palestine. There are many, many things that we are going to identify, and we have to identify as which are the things that we want to get involved with and which are the things that we don't want. So what's next? What do we hope to provide to you as a partner in the community? First is voter registration and volunteer recruitment. One of the mistakes that we make as the Muslim community is waiting to register to vote at all until it's election time. October, in a presidential election, now we want everyone to register to vote. Raise your hand in this room if you're not registered to vote at all. Is anybody here? I promise I'll give you a hug after, unless you're a woman. I mean, just saying, like, it's not, I'm not trying to out anybody. Is anybody not registered to vote? Okay, that's a bad question as a teacher because, no one wants to raise their hand. But we need to make sure that voter registration is something that happens probably every quarter within our communities so that this is a regular practice of the community and this is something that is part of a culture that everybody understands. That it's not some foreign thing. I have no idea how to do this and it's very, very strange. Anybody who wants to volunteer. We have a lot of work to do, whether it comes to trying to reach people on social media, whether it comes to trying to, if we do get involved in a particular race that we deem as being strategic and important to us, there will need to be messaging, there will need to be even canvassing. We have a bunch of people on, been given data by some of the masjids as to where people live. We will need to reach out to people, even going door to door in extreme scenarios. That all takes volunteer recruitment. We are happy. Even this data stuff, I have very, very little bandwidth. I wish I had a little bit more time to play around with the numbers because there's a lot of interesting things in the data that we have. So if anybody has some skills and would like to volunteer, we've got people that will be, actually we have a QR code that you can scan and fill out a Google form, and we would be happy, more than happy to include you and put your skills to use. We hope to provide strategy for what to do come November. That is one of the things that that is our lane in the community. The masjid as a 501c3 cannot do that for you, They can motivate you and tell you to go to register and get out the vote, and they can become a polling place, but they cannot tell you who to vote for. We hope to be able to put something in everybody's hand come November as to the people who are genuine threats to the interests of the Muslim community and people who are particularly advantageous to the Muslim community. Especially focusing on the 3 areas that we mentioned, Upper Makunji, Lower Makunji, and Western Allentown. So that hits on 2 and 3. And 4, one thing that makes us very special, very, very special, and different from all of the other organizations, by the way, there are many initiatives like our initiative across the country that have come up in the last year. So Amin and the Muslim Coalition in Dearborn area in Michigan, very, very similar thing. There are other organizations in California that have sprung up, other organizations in Irving, Texas that have sprung up, and I'm in contact with them all that have very, very similar things going on. Everybody has decided that we have to take back the power for ourselves and organize our communities. But we're the only ones doing one thing, which is actually, we hope that Allah rewards us for it. We are the only ones that are trying to make what we're doing as a model and a template that we can then pass on to other communities. So all of our internal documents that are like the spreadsheets and the data, we're not sharing any of the data, that's classified information, but when we're making it scalable. We're showing people, here is how you power map. Here is how you decide on your priorities. I'm actually currently coming up with a rubric and a formula in order to rank how threatening a particular politician is to the interests of the Muslim community. This is more for federal and state than it is for local elections, because many of the things at the local level are not particularly threatening. But we are in a conversation, and we're actually on the leading edge of helping other communities do this work as well. At the end of the month, I'm going to be going to the Bay Area, California. I have people that are meeting me. I'm going to run a meeting for them, just like our first meeting that we ran, showing them how to do it. Here are the templates. Here are the steps. Here's what you do. And then you guys do it for your own community. So anybody who participates in this effort, inshallah ta'ala, will have the reward of not just the work that you do in this community, but also those who you affect. Cute little dinosaur, scan the code, and become a volunteer. Join us in our work, or register to vote. This will give you what you need if you are not registered, or you have any questions, or you want to reach out and contact us at all. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention and engagement.